God cares. The Book of Daniel. The year was 605 BC. Jerusalem trembled. The city of God, once proud, now bowed beneath the boots of a foreign king, Nebuchadnezzar, ruler of Babylon. God had allowed his people to be conquered, not because he had forsaken them, but because they had forsaken him. The holy vessels from God's temple were seized, carried off like trophies, and placed in the treasury of a pagan god. To Babylon, it looked like victory. But God was writing a story. Among the exiles taken was a group of young men, noble, intelligent, handsome, and full of promise. Babylon wanted to reprogram them, erase their heritage, rename them, and teach them the language, culture, and ways of the Chaldeans. One of them was Daniel. His name meant God is my judge. Babylon tried to rename him Belshazzar, meaning Prince of Bel, after a false god. They tried to rewrite his identity, but Daniel knew who he was. He had been taken from the temple of God to the palace of a pagan king. But Daniel carried the presence of God within him. The king ordered that these young men eat the rich food and wine from his table, delicacies laced with idolatry and forbidden by the law of Moses. To eat it was to conform. To refuse was rebellion. No one would have blamed Daniel for compromising. He was just a teen. He was in captivity. Everyone else was doing it. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself. Let that sink in. He purposed in his heart. Before the test came, his resolve was already written in stone. He didn't wait until the pressure hit. He chose beforehand. He asked the chief official for permission to abstain, and God gave him favor.
Give us only vegetables and water. Then compare us to the others who eat the king's food.
Test us for 10 days, Daniel said. Give us only vegetables and water. Then compare us to the others who eat the king's food. The official agreed. 10 days passed. While others dined on luxury, Daniel and his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, renamed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ate in humility. Yet when the test ended, their appearance was healthier, brighter, stronger than all the others. God honored their faithfulness, not just with favor, but with supernatural wisdom. As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Daniel 1:17. 3 years later, they stood before Nebuchadnezzar himself. The king found them 10 times wiser than all the magicians and astrologers in his realm. Not because of Babylon's training, but because of their faithfulness to the God of heaven. Daniel didn't just survive Babylon, he thrived in it, because he didn't let Babylon live in him. Daniel 1 isn't just history, it's a manual for spiritual resistance. We live in a modern Babylon. The culture tries to rename you, redefine you, and reprogram you. But like Daniel, you are not what the world calls you. You are who God says you are. Faithfulness starts with resolve. Purpose in your heart now before the temptation comes. Draw the line. Refuse to blend in. Because when the furnace comes, and it will, it's too late to decide then. And know this, God always honors obedience. Not always with comfort, but always with power, wisdom, and favor. Daniel and his friends stood their ground. In a foreign land, under a pagan king, they refused to compromise. No royal wine, no Babylonian defilement, just quiet obedience and unshakable faith, and God honored them. They became 10 times wiser than Babylon's best, favored by the king, positioned not by chance, but by heaven. But this was only the beginning, because the God who gave Daniel favor is about to give him something more. A dream is coming, a statue, a mystery, a vision that will shake the foundations of every kingdom. The king could not sleep. Nebuchadnezzar, ruler of the greatest empire on earth, awoke in a cold sweat. The most powerful man alive was shaken to his core by a dream he couldn't remember. It wasn't just any dream. It was a vision sent by God, a prophetic revelation, encrypted in symbolism, speaking of kingdoms yet unborn, and a throne that would never end. But it left Nebuchadnezzar terrified. And worse, he had forgotten the dream. In a fury, he summoned every wise man in Babylon, sorcerers, magicians, astrologers, enchanters. He demanded the impossible.
Tell me what I dreamed. Then tell me what it means.
Tell me what I dreamed, then tell me what it means. They were stunned.
O king, no one on earth can do what you ask. Tell us the dream, and we'll interpret it.
O king, no one on earth can do what you ask. Tell us the dream, and we'll interpret it. But the king was suspicious. He knew they were fakes. He wasn't just testing their knowledge. He was exposing their deception.
If you can't tell me the dream, I'll have you torn limb from limb and your houses reduced to rubble.
If you can't tell me the dream, I'll have you torn limb from limb and your houses reduced to rubble. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, came to carry out the execution, Daniel didn't flinch. He spoke with wisdom and courage.
Why is the king's command so urgent? And with bold faith.
Why is the king's command so urgent? And with bold faith, Daniel did the unthinkable. He requested an audience with the king and promised to return with the dream and its interpretation. That night, Daniel didn't strategize or panic. He prayed. He and his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, cried out to the God of heaven for mercy, for revelation, for the impossible. And then it came. In the night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, Daniel prayed, for wisdom and might are his. He changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. He reveals deep and secret things. The next morning, Daniel was escorted before the king. Nebuchadnezzar's gaze was piercing. His voice thundered.
Can you tell me what I dreamed and what it means?
Can you tell me what I dreamed and what it means? Daniel's answer was clear, humble, and divine.
No wise man, enchanter, magician, or astrologer can explain this mystery to the king.
No wise man, enchanter, magician, or astrologer can explain this mystery to the king. But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets. Then Daniel revealed the dream, every detail. You, O king, saw a great and terrible statue, brilliant and awe-inspiring. The belly and thighs were bronze. As you watched, a stone, cut not by human hands, struck the statue at its feet. It crushed it completely. Then the stone grew into a mountain that filled the whole earth. Nebuchadnezzar sat breathless. Then Daniel gave the meaning, You, O king, are the head of gold. God has given you power and glory. But after you, another kingdom will rise, inferior to yours. Then a third, of bronze, will rule over the earth. Then a fourth, strong as iron, crushing all things. But the feet, mixed with clay and iron, symbolize a divided kingdom, partly strong, partly weak. And in the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. It will crush all these kingdoms and endure forever. That is the meaning of the stone cut without hands. This is what will come to pass. Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face before Daniel. This pagan king, conqueror of nations, worshipped a Hebrew exile. Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings and a revealer of mysteries. Daniel was exalted, made ruler over all Babylon's wise men and governor of the province, and his 3 friends were promoted with him. But more than promotion, something far greater had been revealed. God rules over kings. God reveals the future, and God's kingdom is coming. The world we live in is like Nebuchadnezzar's statue, impressive, intimidating, built on power and pride. But every human kingdom is temporary. Only one kingdom will last forever. The stone not cut by human hands is Jesus, the Rock of Ages, who will crush every empire and rule forever. Daniel reminds us, when the world shakes, when the systems of man seem invincible, God is still on the throne. When things are impossible, God can still reveal secrets. He speaks to his people, he gives wisdom, and he's building a kingdom no hand can destroy. You don't need to fear empires. You belong to the king who sets up and tears down nations. But Nebuchadnezzar's heart isn't fully changed yet, because while the king praised Daniel's God, he also couldn't stop thinking about that statue, that towering image from his dream of power, greatness, and glory. And soon he makes one of his own. Not just a head of gold, but an entire statue of gold, 90 feet tall. It's a monument to himself, and he commands all nations to bow before it. The statue was massive, 90 feet tall, made entirely of gold, a shimmering monument to pride and empire. Nebuchadnezzar had dreamed of a statue in chapter 2, one God had revealed, but now he built his own, and made it all gold. No silver, no bronze, no iron, no clay, no succession, just him, forever. It wasn't just a statue, it was a statement. My kingdom will not fall. My word is final. My name will be worshipped. The decree went out. At the sound of the music, horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, you must fall down and worship the image I have set up. Whoever does not bow will be thrown into a blazing furnace. And the music played. Across the plain of Dura, thousands dropped to their knees. Every official, every noble, every servant collapsed before the idol. All but three, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the friends of Daniel. They stood, not in rebellion, not in arrogance, but in unshakable faith. They could have made excuses. We'll bow on the outside, but not in our hearts. But they didn't bend. They didn't bow. They stood while everyone else fell. News reached the king. Furious, Nebuchadnezzar summoned them. Is it true, he thundered? Do you refuse to worship the image I made? I'll give you one more chance. Bow or burn. And what God will be able to rescue you from my hand? And in one of the boldest replies ever spoken, they answered, not with fear, but fire in. Their voices,
O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter.
O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us, and he will deliver us from your hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image you have set up. Daniel 3:16, 1:8, even if he doesn't. Faith that believes for a miracle but refuses to bow even without one. Nebuchadnezzar's rage exploded, his face twisted in fury. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter than normal. So hot, the very soldiers who threw the men in were killed by its heat. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, bound, thrown into the fire, and then something. It happened. The king leaned forward. His eyes widened. His voice trembled.
Didn't we throw 3 men into the fire? But look, I see 4 men, unbound and walking in the fire.
Didn't we throw 3 men into the fire? Yes, O king. But look, I see 4 men, unbound and walking, in the fire, unharmed. And the 4th looks like a son of God. The 6th grew. The fire didn't burn them. It burned their ropes. They weren't writhing. They weren't running. Walking free, untouched in the place meant to kill them. And with them was someone else. Not an angel, not a vision, but Jesus himself, the pre-incarnate Christ walking in the flames with his faithful ones. Nebuchadnezzar called them out. The entire court watched, stunned, as the 3 emerged, not a hair singed, not a thread scorched. They didn't even smell like smoke. The king's heart was changed. Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives, rather than serve any god except their own. No other god can save in this way. He made a new decree. No one was allowed to speak against their God, and he promoted them in the province of Simmerman, Babylon. This world will always build statues, ideologies, systems, movements, trends, and demand. Your bow. Compromise is the music that plays constantly. But God is looking for people who won't bend, won't bow, and if necessary, won't burn. The fire is real, but so is the fourth man. He may not always deliver from the furnace, but he will always show up in the furnace. Sometimes it's in the fire where you meet him most clearly. Faith isn't proven by the avoidance of trials. It's proven in the middle of them when your stand costs something and you choose to obey anyway. The miracle wasn't just that they survived. The miracle was who showed up when they did. But this story isn't over yet. Nebuchadnezzar has seen God's power. He's witnessed miracles. He's spoken words of reverence, but he has not surrendered his heart. And in the quiet after the fire, pride still simmers beneath the surface. A new dream is coming, a dream that will shake his soul. It began with a royal announcement, a pagan king writing scripture. It is my pleasure to tell you about the miraculous signs and wonders that the Most High God has performed for me. Are his signs, how mighty his wonders. His kingdom is eternal, and his dominion endures from generation to generation. Daniel 4:2-3. Yes, these words were written by Nebuchadnezzar himself, but the story behind them was nothing short of terrifying. Once again, God invaded the king's sleep. Nebuchadnezzar saw a great tree, tall and dying, strong, visible to the ends of the earth. Its leaves were lush, its fruit abundant. Creatures of every kind found shelter under its branches. Then suddenly, a watcher, a holy messenger, descended from heaven with a decree: chop down the tree, strip its branches, scatter its fruit.